Alright, enough of this. I only got an hour before I have to go to the bank. Gotta go to the bank. Put some money in the bank. Get some money out of the bank. I want to do some texture pack stuff before I go. Alright. So I'm going to show you guys something I worked on last night. I've done some changes to the texture pack. I'm going to do a couple more. But I want to get some opinions and stuff. Because I know a lot of you guys are like all disheartened now that you realized, oh my god, Rob, you've changed all the textures. My dungeon is ruined. Don't worry. Don't calm yourselves. Everything's going to be okay. Everything will be fine. Calm down. Alright. There we go. Okay, so this is what the texture pack currently looks like. Me and Sugar made this last night. And I want to stress what we worked on for the majority of the night. Was this is the spawn, and it's not done. I feel like there should be something here. I feel like this wall is still really boring. But like this is what you really want to be spending your time on. If you're doing anything in the dungeon, don't be working too much on puzzles. Like, it's okay if you have ideas and you're gonna like play with them and stuff, but I would really focus on the aesthetics, as that's gonna be like the most important thing for all the dungeons. Let's see. No music, we're good. Okay, I need like the most lightest music. Actually, you know what? I do have some light music. Just like stuff I won't even kind of notice. Okay. So, you know, it looks okay. I'll show you the inside, and I'll explain some of the things that have changed. I did a cloth texture, because for the first dungeon, I think we're going to go with that castle-y, just normal type of dungeon look. I might add a couple of these for different colors, for whatever you want to go with. Fly around, I was just kind of messing with some ideas. One thing I added that you're going to notice here is, look at this lighting. Do you see how it makes a ring? That doesn't make any sense. Right? Look at the top of this mountain. There's light. Why is there light emanating on this mountain? Well, there's fire there. But is that fire really causing it? What about this? These are all lit up, but you can't see anything. One of the things I decided to do was change glowstone to be completely invisible. And the reason why I did that is because I realized it would be really huge for the texture pack if we had a way to create a light source, but you couldn't see it. So like if you look, like I'm trying to fly straight up, I can't because there's actually glowstone here, and I'm going to walk on it if I can find it. Where is it? There it is. I'm walking on glowstone. And yeah, it really lets you like control the light source in a room. Like right now there's like one, like look how much light is actually in this room. So there's this one redstone lamp. There's these two tiny little torches up here, and there's a couple of candlesticks. The room looks like it's lit everywhere except kind of on these staircases, and that's because right above this is a layer of glowstone. Let me turn off the texture pack so you guys can kind of see what it looks like. So I was just still messing with it, but you can see like that's how you get these weird lighting effects, is just using glowstone. Whoa, why is there coal here? That's not right. I think Kitten was doing that and she messed up. It's a good thing to check. But see, you can create like lighting patterns by using the glowstone. Hey, there's some missing glowstone here. I'll have to work on that. And see, just same with the waterfall. The waterfall didn't have any lights on it, but it was lit up. Why is this on netherrack? Sugar's really bad at this, man. I keep warning her not to use that stuff. I'm gonna have to go through and paint all these extra blocks. Oops. So, invisible lights we added. We need to get like a document made so people fully understand everything. If you're lagging, turn down your quality because your internet sucks. Okay, so I'm just showing you like one thing I made here. So see, up here is a glass, and then wouldn't you know it, it's gonna connect to this wall. So there's a little secret thing. Let me see if I hit it. Because I want to show you the next thing. Oh, cool. And then, so I also made it so the cracked stone, which you can barely tell the difference, right? Also triggers all that stuff. So you can use it as a way to get out. Like I just made it so like if you ever like just AFK'd in that room, you'd be able to regen out. And the other thing I'm messing with is invisible. Yes, you may have noticed it. Is invisible vines. So how did I get up here? Well, it's because there's invisible vines there, and that's what let me climb up that. But the invisible vines aren't just for that. They also trigger traps. So I'm going to show you this. So right here is a thing of lava. Okay, this thing is fully resettable. The lava takes a while to go away, but you can see there's vines right here. Have they all grown down? No, it looks like right here they haven't finished regrowing. Right there. So what's cool about this is if you walk through the vines, you might only barely notice it that there was vines there, but if you're just sprinting through the dungeon, well, if I actually sprint through the vine part, you'll set off like whatever trap or event you wanted to occur. So here's more vines, and they only go off if you walk into them. And so the vines will regenerate because as long as they had a top part, see the vines already regenerated here, like the normal stuff with the breakable walls and breakable glass. It'll just then grow down, which is also cool because sometimes like somebody might go to a dungeon like 30 minutes later, but it hasn't fully grown. So what that lets you do is actually put in a random variable where you could walk through it, and look, I'm gonna walk through this time. It's not going to go off because the vines haven't regrown, so sometimes traps won't even go off for some people, but they'll go off for others, and so that's pretty neat. For anyone who doesn't know what our Dungeon Hunter project is, you just calm yourself. Callaghan will give you a link. I'm just talking to people who like actually know what we're talking about right now. But yeah, those are the changes I added. To be honest, not a lot of people actually said, like, these are X textures that I would need. There were some people who were like, I need the diamond block texture, and I was like, for what though? That's the thing, is like, what exactly, like, what other textures do we need? Do we need more types of stones and stuff? Because I've only started to mess with it, and you know it's pretty easy to get the detail, and I haven't even messed with a couple of the stones still we're using. And remember, like, I'm okay adding, like, I'm not gonna add all 15 colors of wool, because you shouldn't be using 15 colors of wool. All the dungeons should have a very. Here's the one thing is like, if your dungeon isn't a Castle style dungeon, then you'll have to use one of the other 6 texture packs we end up making, which is going to be sometime in the next couple weeks here. But eventually you will have to conform to some sort of theme. So like, we might have like a jungle theme, we might have like a desert theme, we might have a lava theme, we might have a, you know, watery dungeon theme, a spider theme, whatever. We'll end up having 7 themes. But eventually you'll have to conform your dungeon to some sort of theme. And the reason why this is because when we're in tier 1 dungeons, so let's just say this is tier 1 now, okay? This is the tier 1 dungeons.
they will all use the same texture pack, and so they all have to kind of look the same but not be the same. So like they have to kind of have the same general feel, because it just wouldn't make any sense if like I'm in my tier 1 dungeons and they're all Castlevania style castles, and then there's just one castle and it's just there's lava coming out of the walls, and it's just kind of like, what? Like, obviously this one you probably wouldn't want to use a ton of lava because it just wouldn't make any sense. It's more castle-y look. You also wouldn't want to use a lot of water, and that was actually one of the biggest problems of like a lot of dungeons people sent me, is that there's no theme. They try to do everything. So like you'll be in a spider cave, and then now you're in the desert, and then the next room's filled with lava, and in the next room you're like walking on ice, and it's like, okay, well, this is kind of like Rainbow Road in Mario Kart. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're trying to do too much with it. You don't have to do too much, like, because you want it to be big, you want it to be simple, and you want it to look good. Like like me and Sugar spent our time just decorating, right? That's all we did, and that's kind of what the project is. And then obviously, like look at it this way. How many people would have actually found like this little secret lamp thing that's going to go to some room that has a one of the treasure chests implemented, or a ocelot thing? Like, how many people would actually find this? They might not, because this is just the entrance to the dungeon. But because there's so much background noise, like so much like stuff to look at, you might just ignore it and go to the next room. And that's when you can do like traps and stuff properly. And it's the same with all the vine changes, is if you just do big empty rooms and there's nothing in it, it'll make it easier to get a trap away. Because to be perfectly frank, most people's traps were just like really obvious. It's like I walk into a room and the last 3 rooms all had a trap doorway. And I'm like, well, I wonder if this is going to be a trap doorway. And then it is. And it's like, well, go figure. That's the other thing is like that I've explained with traps is they're not traps in static dungeons like this that have to be repeatable, are not going to be as entertaining as just a well thought out layout that can provide, like, look at this room, is like, this is a room, and then imagine if monsters can spawn on the stairs and stuff. Sometimes you're going to come in here, right, and you're going to, and because the monsters can sometimes be a little bit random, you come up here and it's a bunch of zombies, and it's like, okay, sure, whatever. But the next time it's like some pigmen and some skeletons, you're like, okay, well, this is a bit more of a problem. So you should really work on the aesthetics of your rooms and stuff. But yeah, that's what we've got so far. I don't really know what there is to add other than I think people want to go with some garden stuff, so adding dirt, grass, and the plants. Yeah, so people are like, for people who don't know, we've changed, I'll disconnect to show you what all the blocks are, now that you know what my little one-room dungeon looks like. We changed it to diamond, and the reason why we changed it to diamond is because when sponge break, it makes a weird sound, whereas if you just use an ore, it doesn't break. This is sandstone, but it's not going to be sandstone for long, I think. I think it's going to get all turned to nether brick. It's actually really bad because Sugar, like, really messed up some of this stuff. Ah, shoot. Did I just break that? Coal is the breakable wall, but I mean, sometimes when you're working with the texture pack, you're gonna like put the wrong blocks in places, and so she put a bunch of coal, which obviously isn't something you want to do. This block's gonna get replaced though with just nether brick, because as you can see, nether brick is the same, gonna be the same texture as this, so. And then there's the vines that let you build ladders anywhere. The jack-o'-lanterns actually have like multiple functions. Like you may have noticed they were lighting the thing because they look different on the top than they do on the sides, so that's pretty cool too. Place near coal 15 coal or sandstone. There we go. So you can kind of see. Netherrack is the same texture as the sandstone currently. Fences are invisible because the wood texture for planks is actually invisible. So you can use fences as invisible walls, and they act pretty good for that. There we go. Clean that up a bit. And so yeah, glass you can still trigger with a bow. And that chain reacts with diamond. And now diamond and glass and the coal all chain react with each other, so let's get in here before this regenerates. So see, there's the diamond. Diamond I wouldn't be able to run through, but then when the coal regenerates, you can run through the coal. And that'll chain react with the others. Let's see, like I didn't, you don't have to build like the bottoms and stuff because you only have to build what the player can see, right? Like any good video game. Let's go back and turn it back on. What is the red wool block? I believe it actually is red wool because, it's a wool block, so you need the sound of walking on wool when you walk on it. Actually, the sounds are actually really important. I don't know if they come across the stream very well. Let me try and, up my volume. That's why, it was important. The thing is, we couldn't use normal stone for the stone stuff, so currently we're using sandstone. I'm actually going to be able to fit another texture anyway, so I'm going to change it to nether brick for the normal default texture we use for this dungeon. But it's important that what you look at also sounds right, because you wouldn't want to we can't use normal stone, because the reason why we can't use normal stone is because silverfish can infect the block, which means so we either couldn't use silverfish or the dungeon would decay over time because silverfish would just destroy it, so that would be shitty. So we had to use, so right now we use other blocks besides the stone, which I understand sucks because everybody built their dungeons out of stone, but just a realization I came to. But I mean, for the cloth one, we just left it as cloth because you want it to sound like cloth when you're walking on it. It was the same reason why we changed sponge, just because originally you didn't think about the sound of sponge, but it's actually kind of important, isn't it? So when you're breaking a wall here, you want the sound to not be sponge breaking, you want stone to break. It's the same reason why I'm not using, well, the reason why we're not using cracked walls is because, again, silverfish can get in them, so we changed it to coal ore. So, man, I don't know what the wool stairs are right now. Let's go find out. I think the wool stairs, I forget. I think they're stone stairs, to be honest. Yeah, the wool stairs are stone stairs, and that's because stone stairs can't be infected, and we weren't using the stone texture. So you have to be careful because I think you can use stone. No, you can use stone slabs. So yeah, you can also have wool slabs. Yeah, there you go. Woo! That was weird. It was like a lighting effect went off. Those actually aren't going to sound right when you walk on though. But so such thing as cloth half slab, so can I make the coal ore texture look cracked? It does look cracked. I'll show you the comparison. It's just, it's not obvious like it was before. See the crack in it? We might make it more apparent, but I don't know, man. I think you should be able to actually see the walls. Or yeah, I don't think you should necessarily be able to just walk by and be like, "Oh, there's the wall." I mean, like, obviously, if you got trapped in here, you'd be able to figure out a way out. You don't have a lot of options. That's because I have to. It's because I just changed it, Ash. So right as I finish this broadcast, I'm going to give you guys the current one we're working with. But that's why it's like, even if even if you've like already made a giant dungeon and you already use stone and stuff, keep in mind that with world edit commands, we can instantly change it. So even if you don't have access to, you really should consider it, especially if you're going to build a couple dungeons or anything. You really should consider at least single player, like get single player world edit. It's called like single player commands. So just so you can like, you know, do a lot of stuff, because like this room doesn't really take a long time. But you know, like even like this stuff detail, like you don't want to do it by hand sometimes, because that just will take you an extra 10 minutes. But like you can just do a replace near and replace everything. But even if you don't have access to that, we can still like retexture your dungeon to look right. But you should be, you really are gonna have to play with less textures and not more. The more textures you play with, the more problems you're gonna run into, because we're not really going to have a million textures, because all the dungeons are going to kind of look the same, right? So you don't want to have 17 different rooms that all, they're like, this is my fire room, this is the lightning room. And for anyone who's like, you should use a higher res texture pack, again, we have to keep a low res texture pack because we don't want to put any strain on Minecraft. We don't want people, because we're going to force texture packs, we don't want people to be like, how should I? We don't want people to be unable to play because like they have to use, you know, a 128-bit texture pack. They should still be able to use 16. Yeah, I know some things like dispensers and stairs are going to get messed up with World Edit, but I mean, for the most part, I'll make it pretty easy. Like, I mean, there might be some hand edits, but yeah, and I don't change textures unless we have a reason to. That's the one thing is we have to have a reason, and we're always gonna have a texture pack. It's just people were sending me dungeons like instantly, and I'm like, oh crap. Well, I better get some texture packs because you guys are just going nuts. So, but that's it. So yeah, I would like. If you're working on a dungeon, the other thing is, remember, is showing proper proportions, is if you're going to have a tight hallway, this is the tightest you would ever be. This is 5 blocks, and you always want to do that, you know, small into big, and then you look to go small into big, and that's really good for the aesthetics of fighting, because you would never fight in a hall. You wouldn't ever want to have encounters in a hallway like this. You'd want to have encounters in a big room like this. And yeah, there is the potential that the one thing with glowstone is make sure that it doesn't get in the way, but we're going to have to play with where glowstone is, because there's going to be problems like this, right? Where like people will be able to jump onto glowstone and like float in the air, that we'll have to mess with, but there's a couple other things you can do with glowstone, because it is not a proper invisible texture. And what I mean by this is when you put glass on a wall, what happens is you can see through the glass, but glowstone isn't designed to work like that. So when you put glowstone touching a texture, you're able to see through the texture. And so most of the time you just want to make sure that the glowstone isn't touching any blocks. However, you might also be able to use this for one-way windows, or Might be able to have it so you can look through something. Or another way to do invisible wall. Remember, you can use pretty much anything that had a wood texture or a wood plank texture as an invisible wall too. Just be careful if it's touching something, right? That's why fences worked pretty well. There's a fence here, but I can't see it. Why don't I make glowstone on normal? Well, because I wanted invisible lights. I wanted lights you could put in dungeon without changing the terrain. Like, you see this ring? That ring wouldn't exist if I had glowstone. Remove near glowstone. Remove near 30 glowstone. Remove near 30 glowstone. What? Remove near 3089. Oh, remove near 8930. I was doing it backwards. Like, it kind of just affects the ambience. And you couldn't really get the exact same thing with stone in certain rooms, so I thought it was just better to have an invisible light source. We have a lot of different light sources to mess with, and there's even one that, like, I don't even know what to do with right now. Like, redstone torches are actually just invisible because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this still. And this one works for a pretty good, like, wall texture. Like, you can put it in a wall. Like, see, the top is actually pretty cool too, so I used it in the lake. Just make a little fancy light source in the water rather than doing glowstone again. You can use these ones as glowstone lamps. They don't look that great though. I actually found though that if you just put a torch on them, it actually makes it look better. Same with this one. If you're constantly doing just that. And then I don't think I changed anything else. I think everything remained the same. Man, this takes so long to reset. Lava traps are terrible, man. You can see so this one had like vines here, but they haven't fully reset. Maybe I'll do this with texture pack off. They didn't fully reset, so like if I was to run through the middle, I wouldn't set it off. If I was to run through this side, I would set it off. If it was connected via the top, anyway. So, diamond ore. She just needs to go like that, huh? Look, I told you, Euros, that when I'm done the DBZ mod, I'll take some days off work to like stream them at a good time for Euros. But like, I know you guys didn't watch it last night because it's like 3 a.m. by the time I stream, or 1 a.m. But yeah, like, it ain't happening right now. That's another thing I have to fix. So yeah, so this will trigger all the way to here. So pretend this was an invisible wall. If I was to sprint through this part, it wouldn't go off, but if I was to sprint and touch this part... So, that's pretty cool. And then how it will regenerate is it won't regenerate the vines falling down, which would be actually ideal, but it regenerates anything that it could actually touch. So actually this one kind of is funny. It might be because of the fence. Maybe that'll be something we mess with to see. if we can affect the regen times. Yeah, lava traps though, like, they just take so long to reset that while they are technically resettable, they're not that good. Like that one's been ticking, I don't know, how long does it actually take? Like 30 minutes? Jeez. Alright, that is all my time though, guys. I just wanted to show a couple things, get some opinions. Make jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, so that is a terrible idea. So I'll tell you why I won't make jack-o'-lanterns visible. Jack-o'-lanterns have 3 sides. That means you can have 3 different textures for 1 light. Why on earth would I make jack-o'-lanterns the invisible block? That would be a waste of textures. Like, there's one side that you can use for design. There's a second side you can use for design. There's a third side you can just use for design. Glowstone has one side. Why on earth would we use this one as the invisible block? I might change furnaces, but then again, furnaces are still kind of a good aesthetic to have for just certain parts of dungeons. So, I mean, just trust me on this, guys. Anytime I change something, it's for good reason. Glowstone was the best candidate. Redstone lamps aren't the best candidate because that would require, you know, redstone to be activating an invisible block, so that doesn't really work. I tried using redstone torches, but they can't just float in the air on their own, so that doesn't work. So this torches don't really work. Redstone ore is very unique in that, like, it activates when you walk on it, so there's a lot of fun things we can do with that. Ovens again have 3 sides, and they also share a side with dispensers, so making it invisible would be really bad. And then of course pumpkins share 3 sides, allowing for more design. So glowstone was actually the only block we could use for invisible light sources. You guys can work on maps for stuff like right now if you want. You can wait, you can do whatever you want. You can just start working on ideas. If you check my recent Twitter, I've put up actually I'll just retweet the Epic Glass and texture pack here in a couple minutes. I mean, like, I can put in more cloth, but like, I'll say it again, like, it has to be themed, so it's like, why would I put pink cloth in? Because then you would use pink cloth, but like, if you look, like, we got like a red light, that's why all the ground's kind of red, that's why we're kind of doing this Castlevania thing, and that's why I went with a red texture. Like, I could change it, but it wouldn't make sense if, like, you go into one dungeon and it's all red cloth themed, and you go into another one and it's pink and blue. It's like, well, that's not the same, you know, style. So, I mean, I don't really want to, like, crush people's dungeons and be like, you have to use this stuff, but at the same time, we kind of have to if it's all going to be in a sort of theme. Like, we all have to abide by one of 7 themes in order to actually get a result that's not just you walking through dungeons. And the other big reason why you want the dungeons to all share some sort of similar theme is because then it plays on a player's memory, and it makes it really, really hard to remember which dungeons they've been in. So imagine dungeons like this. Well, if we had a bunch of if I walked in a dungeon and it had blue and pink textures and a giant statue of a teddy bear, that dungeon would be pretty memorable. You'd probably remember that whole dungeon. But you don't necessarily want dungeons to be completely memorable in a singular sense. You don't want it to be like, oh, this is the dungeon Rob made. Oh, this is the dungeon James Stevenson made. You really want the dungeons to be like, they all feel like you're just doing the same dungeon, but they're not, right? You want them to feel like you're doing the same dungeon. That way, when they come to your dungeon the 3rd or 4th time, they might get confused how a room acts, especially if we do one other idea I was planning on doing, where people submit the same dungeon a couple times, but change certain parts of the layout. Like, so, like, actually maybe you just disable the traps, maybe you enable the traps, maybe one room doesn't have traps, maybe the next room there's, instead of 3 hallways, there's only 2 for some reason, and both the hallway, like, you know what I mean? Just taking the same dungeon and changing it a couple times. So, like, anyone who, like, makes, like, a really, really solid dungeon, maybe we just tweak it a couple times to mess with, just so, like, people don't always bump into the same dungeon over and over. So, like, basically how this works is, imagine there's a town, okay? So imagine there's a town, and this is the one town in the game, and then there's like a blacksmith that does things, there's an inn, there's a place to store your items, and all that stuff, and then there's a place with a bunch of portals. Okay, when you take a portal, you go to one of the random generations in that tier. So this first tier has this castle tier, Castlevania style nighttime tier. So imagine if when you teleport to a dungeon, you teleport to a random dungeon, okay? Just like a random dungeon. Then they all kind of look the same. They all have the same texture pack. They all have the same type of monsters in it. They all have the same degree of difficulty for the most part, but they're not the same, and they're not randomly generated. Because people there's anytime people make games like this, they always do randomly generated. Well, that's because actually going and making, 100 different dungeons is a lot of work. In Minecraft, it is a lot of work, but it's something a large community like ours can do. We can make 100 different maps, and then we can take 100 different maps, and then we can make a couple different versions of them, and then we can just go and then make it so you teleport to one of these 100 different versions of a map. And so you run through like 10 dungeons, and they're all like really, they're all unique in their own way, but they all have the same theme. So like let's just call the first tier the Castlevania tier, right? So you're always going to some sort of keep called Castlevania. Well, damn man, this is a really big keep apparently, because every time you go to it, you just keep exploring different rooms, and that's the whole idea, right? You want them to all have some sort of theme, but be different in a sense. Yeah, but that's it. So like I said, I gotta peace out. I gotta go. I don't know if I'm gonna be streaming tonight. Anything. I need to get this texture pack that I've updated. And that's it. Just gonna see if there's any more questions. I'm not like a lot of the ideas for this texture pack came from emails and people just asking questions and being like, "Can we do this?" Like, I hadn't even really thought about doing cloth or a dungeon tier because I didn't have any idea what we were doing with this. But then someone was like, "We should just use a cloth and do that." And then another guy was talking about how he was working on a big epic dungeon, and I'd already seen it, and I was like, "Okay." And so I just thought for the first tier, really simple. But if it doesn't fit your dungeon, like if you've done a dungeon that's like all water or lava, then obviously you're gonna have to use a different texture pack. And so when we finish this first one, we'll go through and start working on like the other themes. Like, what are the themes? Like, well, I don't have them planned out. I mean, but just look at any RPG game and we can like start going. There's only so many themes we can do, right? Like. We're not going to go out of our way to like make new themes. We're just going to use other themes because there will be textures for them and stuff we can use. Because we're just that's why I like really like the Paintery pack, and why we're going to use the Paintery pack exclusively for the most part. Because the Paintery pack will all look the same, but because it has the options to facilitate doing this many tiers. There are no bookshelves in this one right now. I can put them in, and I think it probably makes more sense to put bookshelves in now that we have the wool and stuff. It makes sense to add like a library, so I'll add the bookshelves back in. Bookshelves might have to be a different block, though. I'll have to figure out what that is, because, like, I'm pretty sure a bookshelf, because it uses wood, the tops would be the top and bottom would be invisible, and the only visible part would be the sides. So I might have to use another block, so it's going to look somewhat weird if you try to use the top or bottom of it. So. So like you guys can send me maps. I mean, you absolutely can send me maps. I won't promise I'm gonna look at them just yet though, because like anytime I take time for this stuff, I'm like trying to get the texture pack already before we start looking at maps. If you want to like ask if something's okay or like what you're doing is fine or whatnot, 'cause some people are always like asking like, is this hallway too big? It's best if you just send me a screenshot, because it would take like 10 minutes to like load up a map. Whereas if you just, or no, well, not 10 minutes, but you know, it would take a lot of time if like I had to load up everyone's maps. So if you just send a screenshot, it's like, oh yeah, that's good, fine. Well, there's no town theme, and I don't want to say build like the one and only town in the game, because like right now I have no idea what's going to be in it, or what it's going to look like, or what we're going to do, so I mean, towns aren't really helpful just yet. Maybe we'll do a theme that's just like, you know, a village or an abandoned village or something, but I don't know about that one yet. I don't know what the town is gonna like really be, because there's certain things that I'm waiting on before we can actually implement the entire mod. This is why we're only focusing on the dungeon aspect. So yeah, you guys don't really have to worry about the mobs unless you really know what you're doing. The dungeon has to be, somebody tell me what type of X nor latch it's supposed to be, but it has to be resettable in the sense that it's resettable at the beginning of the dungeon, and then all the dispensers that shoot mobs. I think I've said this like a billion times. You guys can go watch videos, but it has to be resettable at the beginning of the dungeon. I've made it so, I'll just show you one more time. I really gotta go, guys. I'm supposed to be at the bank in 10 minutes. You guys are gonna have to wait till I get back before I upload the texture pack. Like the dispenser, this is the front of the dispenser, and this is a piston, so it'll make it easier, like we don't have to hide them as much anymore, because we can just do that. Alright, now I gotta book it, because now I'm gonna be late.